All right, let's talk about another quarterback. Let's go to Aaron Rodgers. So apparently the Jets flew to California to meet with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, this is probably the best quarterback on the market for the Jets, unless it's Lamar. Lamar is probably the best quarterback on the market, but
yeah, no, I think Aaron Rodgers is the only option for them, really.
Yeah, he is.
I feel like he really is right now at this point.
Yeah,
they already missed out on Derek Carr. I feel like Rodgers was their guy. I feel like they're the only option for each other, really.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else wants to deal with Rodgers anymore. I don't think anybody else wants to deal with Rodgers. That's the problem. The Jets are just desperate because they need a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Raiders could probably use Rodgers, but they don't want to deal with him, I guess. I guess they just don't want to deal with him. Because next year it's going to be the same shit. If Rodgers gets traded to the Jets, he's going to do this whole shit in the offseason where he's going to be like, oh, am I going to come back and play? Am I going to retire? I don't know. So it's like, yeah. I don't think anybody wants to deal with that. And the Jets are just desperate because they have Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson's ass. Sorry to say.
They had their first slight taste of success, and now they want a lot more. They want it all now. They know they got to compete with these AFC QBs. They know they got to. When you run up against Patrick Mahomes, when you run up against Josh Allen twice a year, hell, even when you run up against a healthy Tua, you need a guy that's going to help you put up points. Aaron Rodgers is the best option on the board for them right now. I mean, I'm not even including Lamar Jackson. I really don't think that Baltimore lets him outside. But we're going to save that for later. Aaron Rodgers, I feel like these two teams just match perfectly together. Aaron Rodgers, I feel like he finally needs to get out of Green Bay. He's been there for too long. He hasn't had success in the playoffs. Jordan Love is still on the roster. They haven't used him for more than like 2 games this year, which is absurd. You drafted him in 2020. You just wasted it like an entire 4 years. I mean, I guess he was developing, but if you're not going to use him at all, you're just wasting like 4 years of his career if you keep Rodgers. And the Jets, I tell you, they need to run up the points. They need to run up the points. So I'd say it's a perfect situation for both teams. Aaron Rodgers, he gets to follow the Brett Favre footsteps, I guess. And he gets to start with his BS again in the offseason, kind of like how Brett Favre would. But, I mean, I guess he did learn a lot from Favre, if we're being honest.
Basically the same thing that happened to Favre. He went to the Jets, too.
Yeah, for real.
After he left the Green Bay Packers, yeah.
Watch the Vikings get pissed off at Kirk Cousins next year. And Rodgers ends up there.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know if this is going to actually lead to anything for the Jets. Like, if they get Rodgers, I don't really see them beating the Bengals or the Chiefs. Sadly, I don't. Maybe the Bills.
That's a top.
Yeah.
You get Aaron Rodgers, you automatically get a top 5 QB in that conference.
Yeah, you do.
He's a bit older, but you get one of those elite QBs.
I just don't see them still beating the Jets or the Chiefs. I mean, I don't see them beating the Chiefs or the Bengals. Those two. I just think Mahomes and Burrow, they just make their teams overpowered. Like, even with the Chiefs receiving core, pretty mediocre. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, it really doesn't matter. Yeah. You can just put out a mediocre receiving core. They have Travis Kelce, but I'm talking the receivers. Juju is their best receiver. Tony played a couple of games, but it's like he's more of a kick returner. Sky Moore wasn't really that good this year either. And they still won the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl with that. So it's like, and the Bengals, Joe Burrow is like probably the top 3 quarterback, top 4 quarterback. And they have the weapons too. They have Chase and T. Higgins. And their defense is pretty solid too. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, but this is probably the best. The Jets fans need to hope they get Rodgers, or they're going to be welcoming Jimmy G to town too. So it's like,
yeah, bro.
There's really no other quarterback anymore that's good on the market except for Jimmy G that you can actually start and be solid with. Is Jimmy G? Because what, you're going to sign Carson Wentz? Are you going to sign Carson Wentz? Or are you going to sign Sam Darnold? No, you're not. So it's like, yeah, Jimmy G's the only one that's left. Yeah. So if Rodgers decides to retire, the Jets are screwed. Because they're going to have to start Zach Wilson again because I don't think...
Oh, boy, yeah.
It's either start Zach Wilson because it seems like the Jets still want to keep Zach Wilson because they want to bring Rodgers in to develop Zach Wilson still. So it seems like they want to keep Zach Wilson. So I'm assuming if they don't get Rodgers, they're probably just going to keep Zach Wilson again next year. Because Because I don't really think, to me, it wouldn't make sense to pay Jimmy G like almost $40 million just for like, if you still want Zach Wilson to develop. Because I really don't think Jimmy G is going to develop Zach Wilson. That's my point of view. I think the only way you can develop Zach Wilson still is if you have like Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers is like one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. So that makes a little bit more sense to me. I don't know how Jimmy G is going to fix Zach Wilson because Zach Wilson's pretty shitty. I think it'd be pretty hard for Jimmy G to even fix him, to help fix him, because it's pretty.
I didn't even think about that. I honestly didn't even think about Aaron Rodgers actually coming in and trying to develop Zach Wilson. Coming out of the draft, I mean, that was the whole thing about Zach Wilson was his talents. Like, it was his off-balance throws and all that stuff. Trying to compare him to Aaron Rodgers. That's why the Jets ended up drafting him. I mean, they could have avoided this situation entirely if they had just made the obvious choice and drafted Justin Fields when they had him right there. That's their problem, though. They also could have avoided it if they didn't end up winning any useless games against random teams. Who did they beat? The Rams?
Yeah, the Rams.
If they didn't beat the Rams, they could have ended up with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, was that win against the Rams really worth missing out on Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, probably not. They would have probably won. They could probably win the division with Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly. But apparently that one game against the Rams, that one 2020 game against the Rams was more important to them than securing Trevor Lawrence for the next 10 years and competing with all these QBs in the division. And then they had a chance to make up for it by drafting Justin Fields, and they still screwed it up. So, as far as the Jets' incompetence, they can only blame themselves, really. But they can buy themselves out of it. I tell you, they had a pretty solid year this year. They finally became a destination that players might actually want to go to. People might actually want to go to New York now, not just because it's New York, but because they actually want to win. So, I'd say I give them respect for that. But they really need Aaron Rodgers. I think the Jets should do whatever it takes to land Aaron Rodgers. If they, oh man, they really got to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, they do, because it's just gonna be a missed opportunity again next year if they have Zach Wilson again probably.
Even if you don't think they could compete with like the Bengals and the Chiefs, I mean, they give themselves a shot.
Yeah, they do.
Give themselves a shot. Not to mention, it also helps with the development of Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. If they actually start using Elijah Moore, they got a young receiving core. Bringing in Aaron Rodgers could really help develop them and turn them into like the true number one wide receiver. Like Gary Wilson could finally take that next step and become that guy with an elite QB like Aaron Rodgers. He already won Rookie of the Year with Zach Wilson at QB. Imagine what he could do now with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, he had 1,000 yards this year already with Zach Wilson, so yeah. Yeah, the only problem is I'm pretty scared about teams training for veteran quarterbacks after Russell Wilson happened last year. Because Russell Wilson seemed like a surefire thing, like, oh, everything's ready for Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson played like shit. So that's the only thing I'm scared about.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully history doesn't repeat itself, because when Brett Favre went to the Jets, it wasn't good either. So that's all I'm going to say. I just don't. Hopefully history doesn't repeat itself. Because if history repeats itself, yeah, it's
what would they have to give up for him? Probably.
I don't know.
They have their first round pick this year, right?
Yeah.
It would take at least the first.
He'll probably take a first, then like a third, because he's pretty old already. They'll probably only get him for either just 1 year or 2 years. And they have to deal with Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. Yeah, you have to deal with Rodgers. So it's like, yeah, next year if he does decide to play, you're going to have a whole drama on the offseason. Like, oh, am I going to come back? Oh, I have to go to my darkness retreat. I have to leave for a couple of days. Yeah,
and not only that, but he was done with his darkness retreat, and he's still holding it off for another month or so.
It's going to be hilarious if he does all this shit and he just winds up retiring. That's going to be funny.
Bro. That'd be hilarious.
That's actually not that surprising to me if he did that. I'm not surprised because of the way he is. It's just Aaron Rodgers. I'm not surprised if that happens. If he did all this shit, the Jets meet with him and all that shit, and he just decides to retire. Yeah.
And you know what's crazy about it, too, is that if he decides to retire, I feel like he already knew he was going to retire. I don't know why he would bring the Jets along into it, though.
Oh, yeah.
He would just be wasting the Jets' time, bro. That'd be messed up.
Yeah.
Like, literally just giving the Jets hope for no reason. But I'm pretty sure he already would have known that he was going to retire.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be pretty funny to me.
We might have to bring a Jets fan onto the show.
Yeah.
Let's see what their thoughts on that is.
Yeah, we can bring him on. We can bring a Jets fan on when if Aaron Rodgers decides to go to the Jets. So yeah.